Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy.
It's not even that. And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being...
It all started like this. The View was doing what it always does, serving up another helping of daytime drama, served hot with a side of righteous fury. Whoopi Goldberg sat center stage, eyes sharp, voice louder than ever, tossing out monologues like truth bombs. But this time the internet wasn't clapping, it was laughing. And not in a good way. Without even setting foot in the View studio, two people blew the roof off the show's high horse, Gutfeld and Tyrus. From their own corner of late-night television, they lit up Whoopi's latest meltdown with cold sarcasm and brutal clarity.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg, a.k.a. Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a Karen? I thought that was only for white people, like Toyota Priuses and skiing. Roll it, Francis.
Good morning and welcome to The View. You all saw the news. Whoopi will be back here in 2 weeks. Okay?
It's so cute when one of their side gets punished. They sulk like they ran out of raw cookie dough in the green room.
They didn't need shouting or staged applause, just sharp words and sharper logic. And what made it even worse for Whoopi, she wasn't even the direct target. But when the punches started flying, she still flinched like someone had hit her square in the face. The whole mess began when Whoopi made one of her signature bold and very questionable statements on air, and the backlash exploded like wildfire. But instead of correcting course, she leaned in with that "I'm always right" look and doubled down. That's when Gutfeld and Tyrus stepped in and broke it all down without even raising their voices. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now, let's continue. You'd think after a suspension, Whoopi might step back and rethink her approach. But nope, she came back swinging, louder than ever. And the statement that really made people's jaws drop? On live TV, she claimed the Holocaust wasn't about race. She said it was just about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, ABC suspended Whoopi for 2 weeks because she said the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. She said this on a show called The View, which makes everything about race. Except now.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Ethnicity.
No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for the...
That's not just wrong, it's historically offensive. And it wasn't just a slip. She repeated it confidently, like she was reading from a textbook only she could see. ABC responded by suspending her for 2 weeks. But honestly, that felt like a slap on the wrist. She returned like nothing ever happened, still perched on her throne, still preaching like the voice of truth. But the internet didn't forget. Clips started resurfacing, the memes started flying, and the credibility, that took a hit so hard, it hasn't recovered since. Gutfeld and Tyrus saw the perfect storm building. This wasn't just a bad take, this was Whoopi rewriting history on a show that always makes everything about race. Except now, suddenly, it wasn't. The hypocrisy was so loud you could hear it echo across social media. Gutfeld didn't even need to mention her name. He just described the situation and let the facts do the work. And Tyrus, he sat back, grinning like a man who saw the train wreck coming from miles away. And as that segment kept going, things only got more ridiculous. So picture this Whoopi, standing tall like she's giving a TED Talk, eyes blazing, voice steady, acting like she's about to say something profound. But instead of dropping truth, she drops what can only be called a slow-motion disaster. Right then, Gutfeld comes in calm, dry, and absolutely savage. He didn't shout, didn't even raise his tone. He just dismantled her take piece by piece, with sarcasm so sharp it could have cut glass. And behind him, Tyrus, sitting back like a hype man in a wrestling match, loving every second of the chaos. He didn't even need to speak yet, his face said it all. You could almost hear him thinking, she walked into this one. While Whoopi kept building up her self-righteous argument, the guys were roasting her from afar, not even bothering to step on set. That's what made this moment so brutal. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't need studio lights, dramatic music, or a cheering panel. They just needed truth. Real, simple truth and some cold, deadpan delivery. Whoopi looked like she'd been hit by a freight train of reality and couldn't figure out where it came from. And here's the wild part, it wasn't even a direct attack. But when someone's house is made of paper, even a light breeze feels like a storm. And Whoopi, she was already spiraling before the real punches even landed. And then came the meltdown. Not the kind with shouting or storming off set, but something even more revealing. Whoopi started doing what she always does when the heat turns up. The slow clapping, the dramatic sighs. That classic glazed over look like she's too wise to argue with mere mortals. But here's the truth, she wasn't rising above the criticism, she was drowning in it. She leaned back in her chair, rolled her eyes, sighed like someone just told her the world ran out of oat milk. But this wasn't about oat milk. This was about her losing control of the narrative. The moment her ideas got challenged even from miles away, she didn't respond with facts. She responded with drama. Meanwhile, Gutfeld and Tyrus kept it surgical. Tyrus dropped one of the most savage metaphors of the week, saying it was like watching someone try to play chess while holding a Candyland board.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
That's the level of logic. Whoopi brought to the table flashy, emotional, and completely disconnected from reality. And the internet? Oh, it had a field day. Reddit threads turned into roast battles, YouTube comments lit up with people quoting every eye roll and sigh she gave. Twitter users didn't hold back, turning her expressions into instant meme material. And there she was, America's self-declared voice of truth getting turned into a punchline, one exaggerated exhale at a time. It didn't stop there. Whoopi, still riding the wave of outrage, took things even further. In one of the wildest moments of the show, she actually asked if the Trump administration's values were any different from the Taliban. Yes, you heard that right, the Taliban. On national television, with a straight face. She listed off complaints about Trump, how he disrespects women, how he wants to defund certain programs, and how he leans into religion and somehow equated that to a group known for public executions and banning girls from school. It was a comparison so over the top, even people who don't like Trump were cringing. That moment was the final straw for a lot of viewers. Even her usual defenders couldn't believe she said it out loud. It was like watching someone confuse political commentary with a stand-up routine that bombed halfway through. Gutfeld didn't even need to say anything new. He just let Whoopi's words hang there and fall apart under their own weight. Because here's the thing, when you reach so far to score a dramatic point that you accidentally insult millions of people's intelligence, it's not brave, it's just reckless. And as she stared into that camera, dead serious, you could feel it. She really thought she had nailed it, but all she did was hand the internet another golden moment to roast.
Yesterday on The View, otherwise known as Hell's DMV, Whoopi Goldberg asked how much different are the values of the Trump administration from the Taliban.
We have a leader who has repeatedly demeaned women, wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. Are these values really much different than the Taliban's?
Wow. Talk about groundbreaking to actually hear a celebrity say something mean about the Taliban. How dare they compare them to Trump? The Taliban should sue. Guess they ran out of Hitler analogies. So as they bash the president, I'm reminded how entertainers rarely express any rage over any strand of misogynist Islamism. If they did, we might take their rage toward Trump seriously.
What really pushed it over the edge was the way Whoopi reacted after everything blew up. She didn't walk it back. She didn't clarify. She didn't even pretend to reflect. Instead, she leaned harder into the drama, acting like she was under attack just for speaking her truth. And suddenly, every bit of pushback wasn't debate, it was treason. That's the world she lives in now, where disagreeing with her means you're the enemy of democracy itself. Back in the real world, Gutfeld and Tyrus kept dropping truth bombs, one after another. No yelling, no whining, just facts. Tyrus even pointed out how The View has turned into performance art, a soap opera pretending to be a political show. It's not about conversation. It's about monologues, drama, and applause on cue. And what makes it worse? The studio audience goes along with it. Every time Whoopi makes one of these wild statements, they clap like trained seals. Not because they agree, but because the studio's cold and the ticket comes with snacks. But the second a real opinion walks into the room, something outside their bubble, things start to crack. That's when the real unraveling begins. The sighs get longer, the fake smiles turn stiff, and suddenly, Whoopi, the wise voice of daytime TV, looks like she's just trying to survive the segment. Not win the argument, just survive it. And just when you think she can't top the drama, Whoopi hits you with the final boss level of performative outrage, the stare. That long, piercing glare into the camera, like she's delivering a speech that'll go down in history. Chin up, lips tight, eyes burning with that Hollywood fury. It's the kind of look you'd expect right before someone yells, "How dare you!" But this wasn't a movie. This was just another day on The View. And the audience, they weren't moved. They were tired. You could feel it. People have seen this show before. The exaggerated sighs, the slow claps, the dramatic posture like she's holding the weight of the entire country on her shoulders. But in reality, she just ran out of arguments. Meanwhile, online, people were already making merch out of her face. Mugs, t-shirts, even throw pillows. Captions like "Saint of Sighs" or "Patron of Passive Aggression" were trending. It wasn't political anymore. It was comedy. She tried to win people over with emotion, but when there's nothing behind that fire, it fizzles. And the internet? It's ruthless. It doesn't clap, it screen records, it captions. It turns your dramatic stare into a meme before the commercial break even ends. And just like that, Whoopi handed over her public image, not to her supporters, but to the comment section. And it wasn't just one viral moment. Whoopi's had a long history of doing this, blurring the line between facts and feelings like it's part of the job. One day she's defending a convicted director by twisting words like she's playing legal Scrabble. Another day, she's confusing political disagreement with actual violence, like yelling on a talk show is the same as marching in the streets. She's even got her own version of free speech. In her world, she gets to say whatever she wants, no matter how reckless, but if anyone challenges her, suddenly they're being aggressive. It's emotional twister, but only she gets to spin the wheel, and somehow she's always the victim. And people are catching on. Viewers who once tuned in for discussion are now watching a show where feelings outrank facts, and the loudest person wins. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus don't even break a sweat. They don't have to shout. They don't need backup. They just sit back and call it like it is. Tyrus even brought up real numbers like a Texas district that's 97% Latino, going 75% for Trump. Why? Because the border crisis is right on their doorstep. That's not sexism. That's not butter prices. That's real-life impact. But The View didn't want to hear it. Because facts like that don't fit the script. And that's the thing. The View isn't really a talk show anymore. It's a full-blown performance. Whoopi's entire brand is built on inflated self-importance, selective outrage, and a sprinkle of self-congratulation. Every segment feels like a TED Talk colliding with a Facebook rant, in all caps. but somehow it still wins daytime Emmys. Meanwhile, Gutfeld and Tyrus barely lift a finger. They weren't ranting, they weren't sweating, they were just existing and making sense. And that's exactly what stings. Deep down, even Whoopi knows it. Her takes haven't aged well. They've aged like milk left in the sun. But instead of stepping back and thinking, maybe I'm off here, she doubles down harder than ever. Because on The View, being loud matters more than being right. Passion beats precision. Volume becomes virtue. It's not about everyday Americans, it's about keeping the outrage machine going. And yet, she still acts like she's speaking for the people, like she's holding the moral compass for the entire country. But most people watching from home are just wondering how someone with a multi-million-dollar platform, surrounded by luxury and comfort, thinks they understand working-class struggles by yelling about Trump and clapping for themselves. It's not connection, it's cosplay, and it's starting to wear thin. And just when you think the theatrics might cool down, Whoopi reminds everyone why her meltdowns are practically a national tradition. You can set your watch to them. First comes the smug smile. Then, the dramatic monologue full of buzzwords and vague outrage, delivered like she's reciting gospel to a room already nodding along. But the second someone pokes a hole in that speech, whether it's a fact, a clip, or a blunt comment from someone like Gutfeld or Tyrus, the whole act starts to fall apart. That smug grin fades, her voice tightens, she starts scrambling for higher ground she never really had. Gutfeld didn't even need to mention her name. That's the best part. He just tore into the entire genre of celebrity pundits who get things wrong over and over again, yet somehow still get airtime. The ones who yell, "Educate yourself," while mispronouncing countries they couldn't even find on a map. Tyrus hit even harder, saying the real issue is the racially charged double standards on The View. Hosts are allowed to say anything about white people, but the moment someone flips that narrative or brings actual accountability, they get pushed off the show. And now those same viewers, especially white Americans watching from home, aren't tuning in anymore. They've had enough. Because when a talk show turns into an echo chamber of unchecked bias, even the snacks and fake applause can't cover up the silence of a shrinking audience. Then came the moment Tyrus dropped what felt like a finishing move. Calm, confident, and towering like a bouncer at a logic convention, he delivered a metaphor so savage, it didn't even sound like a joke. It sounded like truth carved into stone. He said the emperors of The View have no facts, just flash. And in that moment, even Whoopi's most loyal defenders were left blinking, unsure how to defend what just happened. Because this time, there was no clever comeback, no dramatic angle, no snappy one-liner that could save the moment. Her credibility, it snapped like a twig in a windstorm. It wasn't a stumble, it was a free fall. And the wildest part, it didn't even happen on The View. Gutfeld and Tyrus delivered their takedown remotely. They didn't need the big stage, the dramatic music, or the production team. They just delivered cold, clean reality, and that was enough. Whoopi acted like someone walked into her home and insulted her to her face, but no one was even in the room. That's how sharp the critique was. So sharp it cut through the camera, through the walls of the studio, and straight into her performance. She looked into the camera like she was about to give a presidential address, but all people saw was a celebrity, losing her grip on a story she thought she controlled. What made it all even more poetic was that none of this was directly aimed at her. Gutfeld and Tyrus weren't naming names. They weren't calling her out personally. They were dragging the type the elite, celebrity pundit who hides behind applause, preaches from a bubble, and folds the second real debate shows up. But Whoopi felt the sting anyway, because the shoe fit perfectly and she knew it. Her reaction wasn't just defensive, it was personal. She hosted an entire segment on The View, practically gasping at the audacity of being challenged. The sighs were heavier, the stare was longer, the tone, that classic mix of bitterness and wounded pride. She didn't respond with logic, she responded with emotion, like always, and that's the game. When people like her get called out, they don't correct course, they act hurt, they flip the narrative. Suddenly, it's not about being wrong, it's about being attacked. Suddenly, criticism is violence, and being challenged is some grand betrayal. That's the grift. Turn every correction into a crusade. Pretend you're the victim, even when you're holding the mic. And in that twisted version of reality, Whoopi doesn't look misinformed. She looks brave. But real bravery, that's admitting when you're wrong. That's backing up your words with facts, not drama. Instead, she's out here trying to build a submarine in a kiddie pool and acting shocked when it doesn't float. Meanwhile, Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't break a sweat. They didn't need costumes, monologues, or moral theatrics. They leaned in, dropped their lines, and let silence do the damage. Every sentence from Gutfeld landed like a piano from a 10-story window, no yelling, just calm precision. And Tyrus, he finished it off with blunt, brutal metaphors that didn't just sting, they exposed. Together, they didn't argue. They dismantled, quietly, confidently, and with a smirk that said, "We've seen this before." They reminded everyone of something Hollywood forgot: restraint is powerful. You don't need lights and applause to speak the truth. You just need to stop pretending the emperor is wearing clothes when everyone can already see through the act. And what did Whoopi do when reality knocked? She didn't laugh it off. She didn't reflect. She responded like someone barged into her dressing room without knocking. She gasped, pouted, and doubled down with that signature mix of outrage and disbelief, like she couldn't believe anyone would dare question her. But that's the trap she walked into again. The punch wasn't even aimed at her, but it landed anyway, because deep down, she knows. The image she's built, the platform she stands on, the drama she leans into, it's all paper thin. And when two guys off camera call out the circus, it all falls apart. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.